the immune system, sworn to protect you from dangerous pathogens that try to infect you.
The body's first line of defense against invaders is the skin. The skin acts as a mechanical barrier to keep the antigen from invading the underlying tissues. Skin is similar to the wall that protects a house from the entrance of unwanted materials. Surprisingly, there are also bacteria on the skin that aid in our defense. These bacteria release acids and other wastes that help inhibit the growth of pathogens.
You'd be surprised to learn that perspiration and oil are also defense mechanisms that help prevent the entrance of an antigen into the body. The oil and perspiration keep the skin at a pH level of 3 to 5, which is acidic enough to prevent many microorganisms from being able to survive on the skin. Lysosome, an enzyme, is secreted in perspiration. This enzyme is able to attack the walls of many bacteria.
If an antigen cannot succeed in entering the body through the skin, it will look for another opening. The eyes, nose, and mouth are all easily accessible openings. Each of these structures, however, has their own defense mechanism. Tears,
Nose,
saliva. Tears. The lysosome enzyme that we see in perspiration is also present in tears.
the nose. The antigen is no quitter. The antigen continues to look for another entrance into that all-important source of nourishment.
The mouth. The antigen doesn't give up, but instead tries to enter through the mouth. But again, the antigen meets resistance in the form of saliva. Like tears and perspiration, saliva also contains the miracle enzyme lysosome. The stomach. Sometimes saliva will not keep an antigen from entering the digestive tract, and the antigen will eventually end up in the stomach. Fortunately, most of the bacteria that are still alive when food is swallowed are killed by the stomach acid and the enzyme secretion from the stomach.
Sometimes the bacteria or virus is successful in making its way into the cell. These antigens would be able to hide out in the cells if not for an alarm system in the cell. When an antigen enters a cell, the cell recognizes the presence of an intruder and responds by producing a protein called interferon.
Some types of interferons are believed to fight viral infections in the following way. When the virus enters the cells of the body, it triggers the cell's interferon gene, which causes the production of interferons. Interferons are not able to destroy the virus or save the cell infected by the virus. They can, however, send a warning message to neighboring cells telling them to secrete antiviral proteins, which will not allow the antigens to reproduce in the neighboring cells.
If all of our non-specific mechanisms fail and the antigen makes its way into any of the tissues of the body, it will be challenged by a macrophage. You might want to think of the macrophage as a soldier who engages in hand-to-hand battle with an invader. A macrophage is capable of amoeboid-like movement. The amoeboid-like movement helps the macrophage locate the antigen within much of the tissue of the body.
Once the antigen is found, the macrophage surrounds the antigen and destroys it in a process known as phagocytosis. The macrophage contains vacuoles filled with digestive enzymes called lysosomes. When the macrophage engulfs the antigen, it pinches it off into a membrane. The lysosomes adhere to the membrane and release their digestive enzymes onto the antigen, thereby destroying the antigen. 2 leukocytes, white blood cells, are involved in phagocytosis. Macrophages develop from a white blood cell called a monocyte. Another leukocyte called neutrophil also helps in the destruction of antigens by carrying out phagocytosis.
Inflammation, which means setting on fire, is an indication that all of the other non-specific defense mechanisms have not been successful. When inflammation occurs, you know that there is a serious battle being waged in the body, and that the body will call on several different characters or devices to defeat the enemy, the antigen. When an injury or infection occurs, small blood vessels in the area of the injury or infection begin to dilate or widen. This dilation is similar to making the roads larger so more materials may be brought into the fire. The materials needed to fight the antigen are macrophages, who will act as the firefighters, antibodies and food to feed the firefighters. When the blood vessels dilate, the blood is closer to the surface of the skin, making it look red and feel hot. No matter how fast a fire truck travels to a fire, it will not be able to put out the fire if the road is blocked by a gate. The same is true for the macrophages. They may be brought quickly to the inflamed area, but will not be able to reach the antigen because the blood vessel will not allow it to pass through its walls. So the blood vessels in the area of the antigen also become more permeable to allow the passage of the firefighters, which are the macrophages. As more blood and tissue fluids begin to build up in the area where the fire is being fought, swelling or edema occurs.
If all of the previous non-specific defense mechanisms fail to destroy the invader, the body responds by producing a fever, that is, raising its temperature. Antigens or pathogens give off toxins, which will trigger the body to produce a fever. A slight or moderate fever helps in defense by stimulating phagocytosis by the macrophages and by slowing down or inhibiting the growth of many kinds of microorganisms. A very high fever, however, is dangerous because of the denaturing of many of the body's important enzymes. This denaturing can diminish or even destroy some of the original properties and specific biological activities of these enzymes.
It's the immune system, sworn to protect you from dangerous pathogens that try to infect you. 3 layers of defense keep the germs away, letting us live yet another day.